I don't have anything to say today for some reason.
Let's get the story about how, why it meant something to you.
Well, as you might have guessed, I was not your normal kid. I didn't fit in very well. I didn't play sports or any of that stuff. And the way I coped with it was with characters like Spock, who wasn't really at home anywhere, or more lighthearted, my favorite Martian, Ray Walston, fish out of water, crashes on Earth amongst all the humans. And he's different. So I identified a lot with that. I always kidded about my spaceship out in the garage, like Uncle Martin. And now here is the spaceship. You see that? It's visualization. If you have to be careful what you wish for. You ever hear that said? Because it's true. If you put out a strong enough frequency to the universe, it's the law of attraction. Look! I mean, that's enough of that.
It's a good story.
One of the things about this job is that there's a lot of grinding of Bondo. Like, you know, you've seen body shops where they work on cars. I mean, this is the same thing. Even the scale is the same. So I got one of these orbital sanders, and they're not really that expensive. Really, what I use for almost everything. Once I do everything I can with this, it becomes a hand sanding job. And it really, it's a very, you have to use your sense of touch and feel when you're working on something sculptural like this. I have a lot of experience sculpting, so it really helps me when I'm doing this. I grind on the surface and I'll literally feel it. I don't know if you ever saw The Aviator. There's a scene where there's an airplane and he's feeling. You know, today they do it with computers, but Howard Hughes would run his hand over the surface. Then he'd call the engineer over and say, I need like a millimeter off right here, because it's blocking the airflow, I can feel it. And he would use his brain to do that. So anyway, when you're doing body work, it's kind of the same, I'm learning anyway, kind of the same thing. You run your hands over it, and you're not even really looking so much as you're feeling for high spots and low spots. It is really important. I don't see enough on the internet. As a matter of fact, I'm amazed at the number of how-to videos about body work and even model making where no one's taking any safety precautions. And I tell you, you will pay if you don't take these precautions. And one, which is really the most important, is you got to get yourself a respirator. 3M makes them. You can't just buy any respirator. It has to be for what you're doing. You know, if it's solvents or plastics and stuff like that. These are inexpensive, and I'm not going to say that it might save your life. I'm going to say it will save your life. You have to have one of these. Okay, so I got this. Safety goggles, okay? When you're sanding, you're using a rotary sander or something, a piece. I'm sure that you've been in the kitchen and dropped something into the sink and hit the water, and a little dot of water got you right in the eye, right? It happens to everyone. If you're mixing plastic, that can happen to you when you're mixing, or even if you're grinding. You could get a piece of something in your eye, and you won't be able to get it out. You'll have to go to the eye doctor, and he'll have to, with an ophthalmic microscope or whatever. I had it happen to me. Anyway, you want to get safety goggles. You see how there's protection on the side? And you can wear them with your glasses. It actually will work with your glasses, but you got to have them. And you're just nuts if you don't use them, because you're playing with fire. Something's going to go wrong. You're going to be sorry. You're going to remember that old Drex told you to wear the goggles and you didn't do it. You know, I'll give the surface a wipe down with alcohol. You know, it's fairly benign as far as solvents go. The idea here is that there's waxes and dirt and stuff like that that will, I'm going to put just a little bit of a glaze coat over this that I could sand smoother. And you want it to stick. It doesn't hurt to go back and give it a wipe down with some alcohol. It'll dry up pretty fast. Okay, so vinyl gloves. These are not just for doing prostate exams. Although, if you don't use these, you may end up having prostate problem later on. Is that true? Anyway, if you're using chemicals or resins or anything like that, you have to use plastic gloves. It's super important. It's not obvious, but these chemicals will go transdermal. They'll go through your skin, right into your bloodstream directly. So, you know, it's the old thing where if you can't see it or it can't hurt me, I don't see anything bad. Believe me, I know people who've gotten sick. And they aren't with us anymore. I hate to make this grim, but no, just, I hate to be grim because this is all about fun, but this is grim. And I don't want to joke about it, but I am anyway. What's wrong with me? Are you videoing?
Am videoing.
Okay, well, you're going to watch the guy who knows nothing about this do it. Hopefully, I've done a little bit of it now, thanks to YouTube is a great resource, but those knuckleheads aren't wearing masks and shit, and that really is unbelievable to me. In professional shops. So, you get all your stuff. There's the glazing material. Now this is made by Bondo. A lot of people think it's crap. I don't have enough experience to know one way or the other, but it's the first one I bought. It's what I've been using. It's a two-part material. This is the hardening cream. It's the catalyst. It's like epoxy resin where you have two parts. It's a non-critical mix. You don't need a scale, which is great. Okay, so mask. Don't do it without the mask. I don't care what they say on YouTube. And the goggles, because you'll see this stuff could splash up onto me. I don't want it in my eyes. That would be messed up. This guy here, this is what we'll use to spread the Bondo. And have everything you need ready to go. Have a couple of paper towels laid out in case you spill something. You don't want to leave material on your mixing tool because, trust me, it ain't going to come off. It really sticks unbelievably. So, it's a teeny tiny. The more of this you put in there, the faster it's going to set. So, to give yourself more working time, you want it not go overboard. There's going to be some experimentation involved on your part. And remember, temperature is going to make a lot of difference too. And here in the valley, it gets pretty hot sometimes. So, start mixing that with a spatula. And what you do is you squeegee it almost flat. That's the only way you're going to be sure that you're mixing everything. Just spread it out thin. Obviously important to get it as well mixed as possible. That should about do it, I guess. Okay, so I probably should have mixed a little more. I don't really have as much as I could have used, but this is just a quickie demo. It's actually not too bad. I'll leave it right about there. What it's really akin to is I've seen in New York City, guys, they don't do it much anymore. Actually plaster walls. What they'll do is they come in and And instead of using resin, like I just did, they mix up plaster, which goes through similar stages. The plaster will go from being a liquid to almost like a cream, and then it becomes almost like a paste, like toothpaste almost. And then eventually it becomes almost wax-like, and then once it hardens, that's it. But plaster is the same way, and I did a lot of plaster work when I was back in my makeup days. I really loved it. It was amazingly alive material. But in the old days, the way they used to finish walls in old New York City apartments was they would mix up plaster. And the guy who was doing the plaster, he understood the stages, and he knew that this liquid was going to get to a point where it was thixotropic enough where he could take a spatula and lay it on the wall and it will stay. And then he would pull it along the wall and make a glassy surface, and then you go back and sandpaper the walls. And I've seen walls that are like glass. It's really astonishing. They only get as smooth and as clean as you have the patience to do it. It's incredible. Plaster. Plaster and plastic. One can kill you, the other won't. That's pretty smooth. I'm pretty happy with that. Hey Jack, where's that water? Where were you, man?